Ugh, listen to yourself, Nika. Vegetarian boyfriend. You're distracted. Stay focused on the mission. Flatline. Robin, Damian Wayne's goth girlfriend. Or is he her vegetarian boyfriend? One of those titles is more likely to get me demonetized than the other. Flatline, or Nika, last name TBD, time of recording, is a character who debuted in Detective Comics 1034. Or rather, was first seen there because in that issue she's just an image on a screen. Her first prominent role in DC Comics was during the Lazarus Tournament arc. This is Robin's solo series by Joshua Williamson, helmed by Damian Wayne, which began in 2021 and lasted for 17 issues, 18 if you include the annual, which in Flatline's case would be prudent because most of her backstory was explained there. We did a video on her origins and her burgeoning relationship with Damian Wayne. A video so edgy it got age restricted. I later re-uploaded the exact same video and it did not get age restricted. Makes sense, YouTube? Makes sense? For those who missed it, I'll have a link below. For those who don't have time, here's some cliff notes. Nika was a rather morbid young girl growing up in Russia who had the ability to absorb the skills of people who had just died, something she discovered at her grandfather's deathbed alongside the fact that he was a serial killer slash assassin. This ability allowed her to absorb fighting skills, but it also alienated her from her family who were now terrified of her, and they'd never understood her anyway. It also turned her hair white so she could create a nice themed costume. And yes, as people keep pointing out, it does have some Silver Banshee vibes, and also some intense Hot Topic vibes. Look at that belt. She ended up wandering the world trying to understand her abilities and hone her skills. This led her to Japan and Lord Deathman, an over-the-top Batman villain with the ability to resurrect himself, which made him an excellent mentor. She went to the Lazarus Tournament for many reasons. They were explained and explored throughout the Robin series. She also ended up forming a romantic relationship with Damian Wayne. The two shared a kiss before temporarily parting ways post-tournament. And although she stole his heart, literally, and kind of betrayed him to Lord Deathman a little bit, and has a very strong fixation on his mother, it's a case of hero, or rather villain worship, the two have maintained a kind of relationship, sorta. It is time for recording a bit of a running joke that they think of each other as boyfriend and girlfriend or play the whole don't call me boyfriend or girlfriend game. It's hardly firm at the moment. Damian Wayne has been a key player in setting up this Lazarus Planet event or arc. Now some of you may be asking, what is that? Well, let's hear it from the blurb's own words, which are surprisingly concise. When Batman and Robin went to war, all hell broke loose. Through their battle with each other and with the ancient evil known as the Devil Neza, Lazarus Island has erupted into a massive volcano of magical energy, completely coating the planet Earth. The result of this explosion is disastrous storms of Lazarus resin, a dangerous and volatile substance that can cause superpowers to manifest, change, or disappear altogether. Heroes, villains, and civilians alike are all at risk. No one is safe from Lazarus Planet. The blurb goes on, but that is the essence of what's happening. It also goes on to use the phrase evolve or die, which matches well for the title of this issue. But just in general, it's a pretty good catchphrase and they should lean into it more. It's very dramatic. Just imagine a huge poster. Cybernetic Mercy, Electric Blue John, other people, and the title loudly proclaims evolve or die. I don't know, it sounds like it could be fun. Now in terms of structure, Lazarus Planet has been kind of all over the place. The main books, Lazarus Planet's Alpha and Omega, they have been surrounded by a series of one-shots. Although there is also a tie-in, which is going to be more than one shot. That is the Gods one. For the most part, these have been one-shots, but they're more like vignettes. They fall more into that category than individual stories that feel like they can exist on their own outside of this event. Rather, these vignettes serve to explain either power shifts or introduce new characters slash move them around so that there's an explanation for when they reappear in the book they're going to end up in. So some have been finding these a bit confusing or difficult to follow, especially if one is dipping in and out. And for those who don't buy into these characters are just going to pop up in the main books with no explanation. Hopefully they're accurate editor's notes. This is what editor's notes are for. Although it may also be nice if some of these Lazarus Planet one-shots felt that they had a bit more substance. Some do, some don't. Side note, it will never not amuse me that in Lazarus Planet Assault on Krypton, John had more chemistry with that Catwoman light 80s bad boy trope named Ash than he has had in his entire series with Jay, in my opinion. Mileage varies. As for Flatline, it was established at the end of Robin that she was going in alone. Her relationship with Lord Deathman had dissolved and she'd even taken over his rackets. So that's where she stood. Where does Lazarus Planet Next Evolution put her? Well, she's still in Japan, and this story does an excellent job of catching you up in case you had never seen her before. The name's Flatline. I see dead people, I hear them too. It's kind of complicated. A few weeks ago, I was on a mysterious island with Damian Wayne, one of like a million Robins, fighting in something called a Lazarus tournament. We barely escaped with our lives. Before I could catch my breath, creepy green goo started falling from the sky and giving everyone superpowers. Everyone except me. unless you count the voice. Now Flatline can already hear the dead, so this voice is standing out because it's speaking directly to her. So she's trying to follow it and seek it out. Flatline was established in Robin as having a sassy, no-nonsense personality that, while it had some soft, empathetic edges, could be quite hard since she was so close to death all the time. It was something that made her rather flippant in general. Plus, given her look, they were trying to lean into the edge. It didn't have the most depth, and unfortunately this personality is not unique to her amidst the recently introduced characters. However, in terms of how she's been written to date, it's been fairly balanced and matches her overall vibe well. And in general, many fans have found her fun, while some hope that she'll be fleshed out a bit more as time goes on, especially if she's going to be utilized more. But for some, this dynamic really worked, especially while it was playing off of Damian. This story shows her front and center, so it's a good chance to see if the style still lands. Death. Death smells so perfect, to me at least. Warm and peppery like American bacon. Not that I've actually eaten any. Okay, once. My vegetarian boyfriend would kill me if he knew. That's not how I would describe bacon. But that's just me. What would your perfect death scent be? Also, how would you describe bacon? The assumption here is that Damian is still a vegetarian, and that would make Damian the boyfriend. For a time, it was a plot point that he was an aggressive vegetarian, but then other writers didn't always follow up on it. The fact that she'd be afraid to eat meat in front of him. Not a good sign. Now, you may remember Flatline saying to Damian that he shouldn't call her girlfriend, or that she was questioning him about it. So this thought narration box could be read a couple of ways. One, as a recurring joke that they continue to kind of think of each other, refer to each other in a romantic sense, even though it's not quite clear what their status is. It's a very teen sitcom joke. Two, she was playing coy when she said not to refer to her that way, and she doesn't really mind. Three, poor continuity. Or why choose? It could be a combination of many things. Ugh, listen to yourself, Nika. Vegetarian boyfriend. You're distracted. Stay focused on the mission. Damian will call me an amateur for not bringing more weapons, but I'm the weapon, and he's too busy being daddy's little superhero to pay attention to me, which is just fine. Just the way it's written, it doesn't sound fine. It reads like one of those, hey, how are you? Oh, fine. And then vegetarian boyfriend runs and ducks for cover because he knows what that means. But it may be meant to be a genuine that she's actually fine because she's taking care of business. Also, it is good that he's not there because he wouldn't be pleased if he knew where she was going, which is to a secret sanctum of Talia al Ghul. You think you're so clever, don't you? You're nothing but a desperate con artist who seeks to pillage and debase the Al Ghul legacy during these tumultuous times. Sir, I'm just here to use the bathroom. Okay, I chuckled a bit. That had big, sir, this is a Wendy's energy. Ra's al Ghul, yes, the DCAU pronunciation has its claws in me and they're not going anywhere. He died during some of the events surrounding this. All of the happenings going on, from the tournament to Batman versus Robin to the Lazarus events. Ubu is here guarding this place. Now, some may be asking, didn't Ubu die in Detective Comics? The timeline on these are wonky, just overall in the DC universe in general. And so these Lazarus Planet events don't entirely line up with some of the main books, although some do. Some are trying and succeeding better than others, and some are still on that sliding omniverse, things are happening when they're happening timescale. As it stands right now, you might need a little bit of a flowchart, even just in your head, to keep track of some of the things. You gotta do some of that continuity editing for yourself, which for some they don't mind, or for others it can detract for the overall experience. Anyway, they fight, and Flatline is sassy. Oh, so sassy. I'm a K-pop stan. Don't talk to me about devotion. This line, well, admittedly, it did make me chuckle a tiny bit. It also does tie in with the persona they're trying to give Flatline, but it's also one of those lines that is tied very much to time of recording popular culture and also slang. Although Stan has been proving its staying power for a little bit. That Eminem song just keeps on trucking. However, all of it, the combination of everything, just has the potential to age incredibly poorly and be quite eye-roll inducing if it isn't already. K-pop references in general were already in cringe territory when poorly applied years ago.
There's one thing this video needs. K-pop!
So on the whole, probably not the strongest line overall in this story. It's gonna go on a pile with the 60s Teen Titans. These days, who could believe in such uncool characters as Scrooge or Bob Cratchit? All that old jazz. Oh, I guess you're right, Render Chick. How about this, Meg? Now you're grooving, good looking. Thankfully, Flatline doesn't have too many lines that are ostensibly like that in this short story. Now, Flatline is able to defeat Ubu, and it's established that he's lost some abilities because of the resin, but he still has ninjas. But of course, she manages to get to what's calling her, which is Ra's urn. The splash page of her opening it, which also explains her backstory, is a pretty cool one. And there's that nice resin glow on her eyes, so one can be visually cued into what's happening. Death called. I answered. Her powers now seem to include a form of resurrection. Let's see where it goes. It seems Flatline now has a more permanent connection to Sasha al Ghul, and as a result, potentially a new mentor. Move over, Lord Deathman. They leave some things vague, like when/where Flatline will return, and what this will mean for her. But there is potential. Flatline has been seeking to improve her skills, though some feel her removal from Lord Deathman was abrupt, and some of the development felt rushed. She's also been fascinated by the League of Assassins, particularly Talia. But this is still an in. It's also a tie that can be used to cause conflict with Damian, and keep the two in each other's orbits, boyfriend and girlfriend or not, while also still providing for her own development. All if used correctly, of course. For some, it's just nice to see that she's still being used and hasn't been cast aside. Yet. We'll see, time of recording. The design really shone this issue with Laura Braga's art and Matt Herm's colors. Although if you already found it derivative or too silver band to your hot topic, then that may not be the case. Writer Brandon T. Snyder managed to maintain the attitude and vibe Williamson had set up for her over the Robin book. Whether that works for you with her more on her own is another thing entirely. And this story, while short, was still mindful of the fact that this could be someone's first encounter with her and managed to work in her backstory and move her forward. Flatline Elevation was one of the stronger Lazarus Planet short stories, even if some of its hip dialogue may age like milk, which is perfect, because then it will be cheesy. And admittedly, some of the continuity feels less than tight. Have you been following all of these Lazarus Planet tie-ins and events? Have you been keeping up with Flatline? Are you excited to see what this means for her and where she's going? Do you want her and Damian to be boyfriend and girlfriend? Share all of your thoughts down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some of my day spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.